All right. Hey, everybody. I appreciate you guys joining. Welcome back to the Iron Giants Strength Podcast. Really excited today to have Coach Dr. Cash, the head of the NHSSCA, current head strength coach at Dorman High School in Roebuck, South Carolina. Coach, I appreciate you hopping on today for us for a quick moment. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. Appreciate y'all having me on.
Yeah, it's been fun the last, 5-6 months getting to know you personally and, getting more involved with the NHSSCA. That part, it just makes sense on our end. It's been a lot of fun and excited before we jump into our conversation just to talk about the partnership that the NHSSCA Iron Giants have with the Glazier Football Clinics this upcoming clinic season. For those of you that don't know yet, probably, which is most of you, what we're going to be doing is providing coaches, speakers at 11 different, is it 11, Coach? Is it 8, 11? I can't remember.
I believe it's 10. Then we have 10 cities.
So 10 different cities we're going to be providing speakers for at these clinics. And I think it's something that's kind of a win-win for everybody involved. It's something that I know we're both really excited about.
Oh, yeah. Just another opportunity to help coaches. We're super appreciative of, both you guys and Glazier allowing us to come on board. There's hundreds and hundreds of coaches that go to Glazier clinics every year. And we just want the opportunity to, educate them, provide learning opportunities, content, anything that can help athletes in the weight room. That's our goal. So we're really appreciative of the opportunity to be a part of it.
Yeah, no doubt. Likewise, I think too, I know what I've always found, maybe you agree with this, maybe you don't, but just in my years of coaching, a lot of times some of the better coaches I hear speak are the coaches that I've never heard of before. They may not have a great social media presence. I know I've always picked up. I've had that experience a lot when I hear a coach and I've never heard of him before, but I listen to him speak. I'm like, man, that guy was pretty darn sharp. So I know that's something we're excited about doing this upcoming clinic season for sure. So, but
I think anybody that has a passion for strength and conditioning and really cares about helping kids, they can always give you some kind of knowledge, something you can take away. So, like I said, we're just really glad to be a part of it, and hopefully we can help some coaches along the way.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, hey, I want to spend a lot of today just talking about you, Dr. Cash. Talk about your journey, right, to where you started, why you started, where you started, your current role right there at Dorman High School, and as well as the president of the NHSSCA. Would love to hear your story and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, man. So I've been pretty fortunate, been around some really good coaches in my career. And initially I wanted to be a football GA. I wanted to get into the football side of things. And one of the coaches that I worked for at Bowling Springs High School here in South Carolina, he had a lot of connections in college. He was at Furman for a long time and was defensive coordinator at NC State. Ended up being our head coach at Bowling Springs when I was a student assistant volunteer there. And I wanted to be a football coach. So he got me in with some coaches at Clemson and actually took the route into the weight room to be a GA in the weight room with Coach Batson and worked with the football program and loved it and kind of decided, I don't want to be a football GA. I want to work in a weight room. So spent a little bit of time there. I was there a little over a year. Then I went to Burns High School, back when they were just a complete powerhouse, early 2000s, mid 2000s. And we were really successful. I worked with the legend Mike Schrock. He's in, the NHSSCA Hall of Fame. He's in the South Carolina Strength Coaches Hall of Fame. I believe he's in the South Carolina Athletic Coaches Association Hall of Fame. He kind of changed the game for strength and conditioning in South Carolina. I was actually having a conversation about him the other day about, his impact and what he did in South Carolina. It just it changed everything. Was there a year and a half, and then Bobby Bentley, who was the head coach at Burns, took me to Presbyterian College as a strength coach. And hang on one second, I got kids coming. Hang on.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Huh? I don't.
Right, it is. I'm
trying to do a Zoom. Got kids getting electrolytes, man. I'm sorry.
All good. It's all good.
So Bobby Bentley, who was the head coach at Burns, took me to PC to be the head strength coach. I was there for, I think it was right at 2.5 years. From there, I went to Eastern Illinois and spent 3 years there as a head strength coach, and then went to Elon after that as a head strength coach there. I was there for a little over a year, and then Dorman is close to my home. Really, I grew up at Woodruff, which is, probably 10 minutes, 15 minutes away, but where I lived was actually closer. So, brother was here. My coach from high school, my defensive line coach was here. Parents still live here, so it was an opportunity for me to come home. So decided to take it, and that's and I've been here for, I guess it's 11 years, a little over 11 years now.
Okay. Talk about like the NHSSCA. How did you get started with that, and how you climbed the ladder? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the NHSSCA, it was around for a couple of years before I got involved. I just initially kind of wanted to sit back and see what it was about, because it was a new organization. The more and more I talked to people about it, the more and more I think I wanted to get involved with it. Because one thing that's different about the NHSSCA compared to other organizations I've been a part of is that, there's not very many egos. If you go to a conference or to a clinic, everybody's willing to share whatever they do with you. It's not like there's any secrets. They don't guard information. So it's a very much a collaborative, connected environment where you can just talk about pretty much anything you want, and people are going to help you. If you got questions, there's somebody in the country, with all the high schools across the country, there's somebody that's experiencing something similar to what you are. And so, if you can find that, then, it just helps you along the way. So I spoke at the Battleground Academy National Conference, the NHSSCA National Conference. That was my first national conference for them that I went to, and it was amazing. And from then, I had become the state director the year before, and then I got involved into committees. I was on the nomination committee with Kevin O'Neill, Kevin Vanderbush, Rob Brokaw, and Garrett Keefe. And then kind of kept staying involved with things. I was still the state director, kept going to national conferences, and then the position for the president came open, and I applied for it, went through the election process, and the membership elected me as the president. So that's kind of how I got here.
That's great, man. That's great. How many years have you been the president?
January 1, 2023.
23. Gotcha. I want to go back to the transition from collegiate setting, because you spent some years in the collegiate setting, then making that transition to the high school setting. I talk to a lot of coaches that do that, whether it's professional setting to the high school setting or collegiate, right, to the high school setting. Was it what you expected? Kind of just talk about that transition that you experienced and making that jump back to the high school.
So the biggest thing here is that, or I guess in the high school setting, there's just such a wide range of athletic abilities that you're going to see. You have kids that, are top tier athletic talent and are going to play, top level college athletics. And in the same class, or on the same team, you may have somebody who, may never step on the field, or may never, doesn't have the desire to play college athletics. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of something that I had to adjust to. A couple other things were, one was I wasn't prepared for the overuse of athletes, that what athletes go through. Because when I first got out of high school in 2007, it was January 2007, and went to PC. Travel volleyball wasn't really. It was around, but it wasn't as big as it is now. Travel baseball, all those were not near as big as they were when I came back. And here in South Carolina, the rules changed probably after my first 2 years and kind of made it worse, where you have open season pretty much year round for all sports. So I was not prepared for the level of overuse that kids went through. And I tell kids here all the time that, once you go to college, your time in your sport is going to decrease dramatically, because there's hours, 8 hours in the off season, 20 in season, as far as what you can do. And we have kids that they'll play tournaments for 3 or 4 days in volleyball or baseball or whatever, and they're playing 6-8 games a weekend, and it could be weekend after weekend after weekend. Same thing with softball. So that was something I wasn't prepared for. The other thing is that, it's high school, it's not college, right? So the level of expectations the kids have on themselves is not as high as what, you might find at the college level. Now, luckily here at Dorman, the expectation from the administration is that, we treat pretty much everything as a college program. We have a huge weight room. I've got 4 assistants. So we run it like a college room from that regard, but still it's just not quite the same. And that's okay, because it's high school, it's not college.
Yeah. It's funny because, I know when I moved back home from spending time in baseball, I worked in the private sector setting. We had contracts with local high schools where we would go in and basically be in charge of the high school weight room. And that's my first taste of the high school setting, high school weight room, I guess you could say. And it was so eye-opening for me just to understand the different variables that coaches face day to day,
right?
What you just talked about, what the athletes are doing, or what's being asked of them to do outside of school with their particular sport. Just the wide range of kids that you work with. The particular school I was at, it was their very first year in existence, and they didn't have the weight training class as part of the curriculum during the school day. So they tried to do it at 6 a.m. every morning, and it was a coin flip on what you were getting, And to the football coach's credit, he was there with me every single day, but he was kind of at a loss, like, my hands are tied here because our enrollment's down. It's the first year and it's in existence. If I make this mandatory for our football players and they don't show up, my way of punishing them is to take playing time away from them. Well, I can't do that because I won't be able to field the team,
Right.
So I say that just to say it really opened my eyes to the high school setting and just the different challenges that coaches everywhere, face day to day. I think, but the big one is what you touched on. I was caught off guard too, man. Like, just the overuse, it caught me off guard. I just wasn't prepared for that.
Right.
Well, you know what I mean?
It's crazy, how much kids, whether it's parents and their expectations of kids, the pressure kids put on themselves, the lack of recovery that goes into it, because, they just don't take time. They don't sleep, they don't eat, they don't recover from practice to practice or from practice to match or game. And it turns into a cyclical effect that you can't break,
Yeah.
And you start seeing those overuse injuries that, you want to try to help, reduce as much as you can. But until there's a break in competition, an extended break, it's hard to do that.
Yeah, it's at RAC coach here, we run I think this, we run a local strength program at a junior college. And yesterday I had a talk with the baseball team talking about how the kids are wired, just how they're so used and accustomed to playing their particular sport all year round. And you made that comment, when you go to college, your hours in your sport are actually going to decrease compared to what they're currently doing at the high school setting. I talked to the baseball guys yesterday because what I noticed, which is great, it's a good problem to have, but I noticed guys are there for early work on their own board, right? They're out on the field, they're hitting, throwing, whatever. They're doing their early work on their own. Go to practice, they come in, they lift after practice, then they're going back to the field. They have a machine that they're throwing BP to each other. They're
Right.
catching, they're doing drills. And I told them, this is your opportunity to take care of your body, right? Like, great, the work they're doing. I think it's awesome, but they need to start thinking about the recovery side of things,
Right.
I guess as coaches, all you can do in that aspect is just educate, as far as, the level of importance of that. But yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because I saw it. I've already seen it. We're 2 weeks into classes and everything, and I've already had that talk with the baseball team. Good problem to have, but
Yes.
important to address, right? So,
Right.
Coach, talk about all your years of experience, okay? If there's a few things, and I'll help you out here too, because I know getting put on the spot like this is tough. If there's something you can go back to like your younger self, or if there's coaches that are looking to get into this profession, what's something to like maybe think about, or what's something you wish you could have gone back to yourself and told yourself when you were just getting into the coaching?
So I think one of the biggest things young coaches need to realize is that most things work regardless. There's so many different training methodologies and philosophies and, ideas about what a strength program is supposed to be. And at the end of the day, if your kids buy into it, your coaches buy into it and help you sell it to your kids, then most of the time your strength program is going to be pretty successful. Now, can you get into the conversation about, well, you should use VBT, or you should track GPS data, or you should track, so on and so on and so on. Yes. But for a young coach, I don't think they have to have all that initially. I think that's something they develop on their own as they grow their own philosophy of what their program needs to be. So I think that's kind of my first piece of advice is that, you don't have to have all of the bells and whistles and look at all the fancy things that everybody else on social media has to think you have to do that, because you don't. Now, is it sometimes better that you have it? Yes, but you can still train kids safely, effectively, and develop them without all of it.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably where I usually tell kids. Second thing I would tell kids, especially if they want to be a high school strength coach, that's different in the private schools. But if you want to be a public school strength coach, you need to be a certified PE teacher, and that's something that I don't think is being communicated very clearly at the college level. PE programs, some of them are kind of falling off. Some of them have kind of dissolved. There's been an uptick in exercise science programs, but you can't be an exercise science major and get a PE job if that job requires you to be a certified teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And most strength jobs are tied to physical education in public schools. So if you want to be a high school strength coach, you got to be a PE teacher. You got to get certified.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. That I'll save my last question for a little bit, but I think what you just said right there kind of ties into that last question I was going to ask you. I mean, I think, you kind of hit the nail on the head. I know one thing that you said it, everything works, right? Everything works. No doubt. I think that's one of the main things I always tell young coaches. Another thing too, I like to use the example, and there's no right or wrong answer here, but you got Coach A that has all the bells and the whistles, that's educated on all the bells and whistles, and he knows how to implement all the bells bells and the whistles, right? But then you got Coach B over here that doesn't know any of that stuff, but man, he runs a hell of a program from a culture standpoint. The kids love taking his class.
Right.
His energy's through the roof. He's the old, I'm doing what I remember doing, when I was in high school, what I did with my football coach. Which program's better? You line them up at the starting line and say, go, which program's better? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
You know what I'm saying? Now, how do you define better, all that stuff, you're getting into the weeds there. But I think just the gist of things, I mean, everything does work, okay? Initially
right.
starting out, worry about, structure of your program, providing a fun, safe environment for your athletes. I think that's something I know I heavily overlooked. I was too far into, and it's easy to get into the bells and the whistles of the world of social media these days, see what
right.
a lot of coaches are doing. But yeah, I definitely agree with your point there that you made. But
well, ultimately, Joe Ken tells me all the time that, ultimately the only stat that matters is wins and losses.
Yeah.
Now, whether we like it or not, if we have a great program, but our teams aren't successful, a lot of times the first person they're going to look to is going to be the strength coach.
Yeah.
So, if you can back up what you do, show results that your coaches have agreed to, you have to have that conversation with your coaches, your sport coaches you're working with, because we are support staff. We support the head coach, and that should be our goal. We are here to support you. What can we do to help you be successful on the field or the court? And what are you looking for in the weight room? And then you have to find that, how can I make my philosophy fit what they're doing or what they want rather. And again, if it's kind of like what you're talking about with Coach A, Coach B. Even if Coach B doesn't know how to do any of that stuff and he's trying, then he's not helping his program. If he doesn't understand VBT and GPS and all the ins and outs of technology, and he's trying to implement it, then he's not helping his kids.
Yeah.
So, and that's where I say, like, if you can, for a young coach, if you can establish, early that this is my philosophy, but your philosophies can change and grow and adapt as you get older and you gain more knowledge about what it is you're doing. I adjusted my philosophy tremendously coming back from the college level to the high school level. We were doing more advanced things at the college level. And when I came back, I was like, okay, these kids aren't ready for these things. So I trimmed it back tremendously, cut down on all the extra stuff that we would do, or the more advanced lifts. And we try to keep it simple.
Yeah, absolutely. Communication, you were touching on that too. I mean, that's obviously got strong communication with your sport coaches, because like you said, we're an extension. Ultimately, we're an extension of them just in the weight room. So I think the communication aspect, obviously, that's something that can't be overlooked. But I think the stronger your communication is with the sports coaches, that's only going to help you out regardless of what you're trying to do in the weight room.
Right.
So, Coach, lastly, because I know you're busy, but, I've been in the industry for 15, 20 years now. I've seen it evolve. Where do you see our industry going? I guess you could talk about kind of how it's evolved since your time, but where do you kind of see the direction, or would you like to see it evolve?
Well, I would look, from the high school setting, I think it's important that kind of goes back to what I just talked about with what I would tell a younger coach, or what I would do myself if I was getting back and, just getting started. We have to realize that there are multiple ways to do things. And just because you do something one way doesn't make you right or wrong. And I think we have to stop being so critical of other coaches and what they're doing, and worry more about, okay, is what we're doing safe for kids? Are we coaching well? Are we technically sound, and things like that? Because the banner on social media that presents us as petty makes it harder for coaches who want to make sure that the coach down the road is qualified, certified, and knowledgeable in what they're supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then it also makes it harder to present a case that, this is what we need to be doing for athletes and for students. So I think that what I would love to see is a more, welcoming, maybe, I don't know if that's the word, but, helpful, I guess, as opposed to combative or, saying that you're right and what you're doing is wrong. And, this is the only way to do things. So on things like that. I just think it's bad for our field. It's bad for our profession. And I think that can go from college to high school, to whatever. But, and I think that I know our goal with NHSSCA is to help coaches overall. And we want to make a push to have certified, qualified, and knowledgeable coaches in every weight room in the country. And we're not going to try to tell coaches that they have to do things a certain way. We just want to make sure you're doing it, what's safe for kids, and then helping them develop. And there's multiple ways to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I think the easy answer is what you just said. Not the easy answer, but I think, eventually getting to that point where we do have qualified, certified coaches. I'm talking more high school level here. We do have qualified, certified coaches at all the high schools across the board. Now, the reality is that how long will that take? Who knows? Gosh, who knows?
That's a big goal,
Huge goal. But I think that's where the organization like the NHSSCA comes into play, is just to provide and arm coaches that may not be that person, right? Just provide them with education, provide them with knowledge, provide them with support, right? And continue to encourage those particular coaches, to seek help from people and organizations like yourself,
Right. And I think support's is a key word there. We have to be supportive of other coaches,
Mm-hmm.
and we want to connect coaches that are knowledgeable and have been doing it a long time with coaches that are new or maybe don't have the knowledge, that even though they've been in the weight room, they may just been doing it the way they've been doing it, and they just don't have any knowledge to change it to where it's for the better or where it's safer for kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I think providing that support network for coaches is something that is missing. And the more and more people that are involved with NHSSCA, I think, realize that support is there through our organization specifically, because we are willing to kind of share anything and everything. There's not very many egos. If you come to our national conference, people are collaborative. They're talking about different situations, positives, negatives, how you do this. Don't, maybe you think about this way, whatever it is. And, so that's where I think things need to go.
Mm-hmm.
And the more of that we have, the better for our coaches and better for our field.
Yeah, no, I'll leave it at that. I couldn't agree more with that. But Coach, before we wrap up, tell us where can coaches find you? Okay, as far as like social media, any NHSSCA information you'd like to talk about?
So I actually got to look up my stuff here, but my email is cashen at spart, SPART, the number 6.org. My cell phone number is 864-804-8389. And then I'm on Twitter as, I don't even remember, at Dorman Strength.
Yeah.
And then Instagram, let me pull it up. I want to say
I have to do the same thing, man.
It's Coach Cash _DHS. So yeah, that's how anybody can connect with me that way.
Perfect. Well, buddy, hey man, I appreciate your time. I know you're busy, so I wanted to keep this just kind of quick, short, to the point.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate what y'all do.
Yeah, no, it's like I said, everybody, it's been fun. We're excited to roll this stuff out this year at the Glazier Clinics. But buddy, I appreciate your time, and everybody, thanks for hopping on here today. And stay tuned for more conversations with coaches around the country. Talk about anything strength and conditioning related, more so at the high school level. But thanks everybody for being here today. All right.
Thanks, Paul.
Got it, Dr. Cash.